Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as we welcome the Grandmaster, Padma Vibhushan Viswanathan Anand.
Anand, welcome to Reliance.
Thank you so much.
This program is very special and important to us at Reliance. We believe that innovation and execution is very important. In fact, our success as a business has been on the back of extreme innovation and great execution. But underlying all of that is also inspiration that brings sustainability to our growth. This program, Jio LEAP, is meant to democratize that inspiration. Inspiration for all, not only for Reliance, but for the rest of the world as well. And who better than a legend like you to inspire us here today? You have put India on the global sporting map. I mean, what was India then? You know, we would open the newspapers, the last page, hardly any sporting legends of India, and there came Viswanathan Anand, the young Indian at the age of 18, the Grandmaster, winning 5 world championships, and the sporting history of India changed. So thank you for doing that. With all that, you also made, in a way, the impossible possible. You know, and that somehow resonates very well with the journey of Reliance. We also pride ourselves in terms of really trying to make the impossible possible under the leadership of our founder chairman, Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, and our current chairman now, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. I think we have managed to reinvent the game in various businesses. We've managed to reimagine customer value. We've reimagined transformation for the nation. And I think your presence in that sense today is of great importance to us. So thank you again.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And you mentioned innovation, you mentioned execution, you mentioned long journeys. And I've always felt that our dreams should be very, very far away, but our journey should be of small steps. You do one thing at a time, you do it well, you move to the next one. So when I began my chess journey, like you mentioned, it was a very different time for Indian sport, a very different time for India. But step by step, and that had its own charm. You're doing everything for the first time, experiencing everything, winning titles and thinking, wow, that was fantastic. Now let me try a little bit more. All these are nice journeys. I'm sure our conversation today will be very interesting because probably we both have nice perspectives about these long journeys.
Thanks. A young colleague of mine in office came to me and she said, sir, do you know he's called Tiger of Madras? And I looked at her and I said, young lady, we are talking about Viswanathan Anand here, you got it wrong. She said, no, sir, he's called Tiger of Madras. And I'm saying, really? I mean, where did that come from, Tiger of Madras? You know, we thought that you would be called the king of the board. The last sort of animal that could be associated with you would be a tiger, which is aggression. So what is the story behind that?
I was a very fast player, and that could be one of the reasons. Also, when people give you sporting nicknames, they try to do something a bit funny. They were thinking of some animal that maybe pounces very fast, suddenly and fast. And if you play chess very fast, it comes across like that, like you're just pouncing at your opponent's pieces. So I think I tried explaining to many people that there aren't any tigers in Madras. You might find something in the Nilgiris or in other states, but we don't have tigers in Madras, but nonetheless, the nickname stuck.
Absolutely, and also some people called you the snake, again, in the same way, where, you know, a tiger comes slowly and pounces at the last moment. Similarly, a snake will wind up the prey and at the last moment sort of strangle. So that has been your style, possibly, that your opponents thought, you know, you played with.
That's a slightly different story. So this was later someone who I would play for the World Championship in 2010, Veselin Topalov from Bulgaria. So he was watching me. My position was dead lost in some game, and he's sitting there, and they're all following me in the press room. python, I think was the animal, the snake referred to, that are somehow too slippery to pin down is probably the origin of this one. So I managed to escape from this by just playing chess moves only for survival, literally. That was my kind of position. And he said, he's not a tiger, he's a snake. he rids out of everything.
But for us, I think it is just one of the greatest legends, the Grandmaster Viswanathan Anand, nothing less than that. But I think we have a video of one of your matches that we should see in terms of your style. Let's see whether you pounce and let's see what happens to the opponent. Let's play the video, please. Now we know why tiger, why snake, and we could see Mr. Kasparov's animated expressions there, who is this? He was the world champion, I think. Who is this Indian, beating me so fast? I also saw something else in the video. Can we play the video again, please? What I saw there, of course, I saw Viswanathan Anand winning the match, but I saw an India winning. I saw the fist pump saying that India can beat anybody in the world. Indians can be unstoppable. If you believe in yourself, this is what you can achieve. Did you guys not see that? Yes. Yeah? And I think that is the pioneering work that you've done for sport for India. And you are the first Grandmaster at the age of 18, and now I think we have had more than 80. But that's sort of started with you giving us the belief as Indians, saying that yes, we can beat anybody in the world. We should all do that once. So on the count of 3, we say 1, 2, 3, you say India, right? Let's say 1, 2, 3, India. Lovely, great. You mentioned about lightning speed. We saw that. We saw the expression of Mr. Kasparov. I think it was flabbergasted with how quickly you beat him. Is this God-gifted? Did you actually learn how to play that fast? Has it always been your style? Did it always work for you? Did you sometimes feel that maybe, this is too fast?
That was in fact a blitz game, which means that the whole game is being played in under 8 minutes or so. I think it was even 3 minutes plus additional time. So the total game is thereabouts. So we don't have a lot of time to do things. And that's why if you also say I'm rolling up my sleeves and all, because I don't want to mess it up and I don't want my sleeves to catch my hand and slow me down and all. So we're thinking in that sense. And we're also playing very fast. So you don't have a lot of time for reflection. But he blundered. He captured my bishop with the wrong piece. He captured it with his queen. Had he captured it with the knight, he would have been winning. But he captured it with the queen. And then he goes about these phases. And this is about the worst thing you can do, because in general in chess it's a rule that if you blunder, you should at least keep a straight face and pretend nothing happens. Yeah. What you do not do is broadcast to the whole world, hey, I've blundered. But clearly he was so wound up in that thing. So we get very wound up in these situations. But anyway, to go back to, and I couldn't resist a little thing, because with this game I won the tournament. So then you don't even feel guilty. You think, okay, I can indulge
no, of course you
a little
should.
bit, yeah. But when I was young, I joined a chess club. So I learned how to play chess from my mother when I was about 6. And very soon, I think when my mother taught me how to play chess, she thought, okay, he'll learn it on Thursday, and by Saturday, he's forgotten about it. But somehow I kept going back to the board and fiddling around and trying to understand something. Then I would go and pester my elder brother, my elder sister, my mother, can you play against me, and so on. After a couple of months of this, they thought, well, maybe there's a chess club somewhere. Those days you couldn't search for these things very easily.
Yeah.
So, but I was very lucky. My sister's college was opposite a chess club, and not exactly opposite, but one day she was cycling there, and suddenly she saw a chess club, and she thought, this is a coincidence. And in fact, it was the best chess club in the country at that point, the Tal Chess Club in the Soviet Cultural Center. So we went there, and I must have been at most 7, 6.5, 7. My mother took me there, met the people there because after all, it's an adult, at that point, it was a very adult game. My mother just wanted to know that, I'm in good company and all that sort of thing, made sure that it was fine. And then I started going to the chess club. And later on, the legend grew that we had a shortage of chess boards and things. In fact, no, it was one of the best stocked clubs in the country. But what would eventually the older players would do, they would all 7 or 8 of them, maybe sometimes even 10, would get around one chessboard. 2 people would play, and the winner could stay for another game. The loser had to get up and get in the queue.
Okay.
If you kept losing, it was a very long, you played a game about every hour and a bit. So 10-minute games, you can do the math. It's more than an hour when you return. Whereas if you win, you get a lot of games in. So I started these kind of things, and eventually I got very good at winning and just sitting for hours there. Like nobody did. Then they would all form committees, which is they would gang up and try to. Unfortunately, it's much harder for people to agree on what is the best move than on many other decisions. Sure. So they actually worsen their odds. So because the guy who's playing doesn't know whose advice to follow. So anyway, so I got into the habit, whether it was because of this that I became a fast player, I got into the habit of playing all my moves within 5 minutes. Or whether I am that kind of person, therefore this kind of time control attracted me, is very hard to pin down. But because I am impatient and other things as well, so you can see the patterns. So cause and effect, I don't know, but I eventually started playing like this even in my regular games, the ones where I had more than an hour to think. And then at some stage it got absurd, where I would just play my moves very fast, especially if the answer seemed obvious to me. I would just play my move very fast, and this became second nature to me.
That's more confidence or more like practice? And
it's a bit of everything. First of all, it is a confidence, because what I believe what I see. You can always say, let me check again. That's maybe a sign of maturity, maybe a sign of hesitation. It depends on your perspective. Or you can think, I must have made some mistake, which is a sign of lack of confidence. So there are many mental attitudes, mental states when you play chess. But for me, it was a sign of confidence, but also a sign of haste. I'm not willing to sit there and put the effort, and I cannot handle the tension of waiting to find my opponent's answer. So I want to play immediately, so he'll play immediately, then I know what he's going to do. So it's a combination of things.
And people said that you were so fast that they actually thought there was some problem with the clock.
Yes, that happened on many occasions. Like my opponents would say, I think his clock is not working, can you check it, and so on. But it was working fine.
But you also said that this could lead to confidence, could lead to overconfidence maybe sometimes, and could lead to haste. Did that get converted into some silly mistakes that cost you some
Quite
matches?
often. I would very often make a hasty move. The worst thing is, as soon as I made move, I would see what's wrong with it, but it's too late to take it back. Yeah. And so the obvious solution is, can't you at least think 1 minute? Where once you see a move, can't you sit on your hands and say, I'm just going to sit and stare for 1 minute. Later on, this became a very effective habit, actually. It didn't require a lot. It didn't mean I have to spend 20 minutes at every position. It just means once I think and I made my decision, hold my hands, even take a deep breath or two, and then see if I still want to make the move, I can go ahead. This is like they say when you write an angry email, they would always say, just leave it in your outbox for a while, come back to it in 2 minutes, and if you still feel like pressing send, then send. It's very similar to that. And it was costing me points, but it was also winning me a lot of points because I was putting my opponents under a lot of pressure. They were getting under time pressure. They start to think, is there something wrong with me? Because everything I'm thinking, I'm making a careful move, and he plays instantly. So it has two effects. Probably on balance, it was more positive than anything else.
But did you ever feel like changing that style, and did it bring in some confusion sometime during your career?
Look, in chess, you get better by having lots of painful moments. So once you've blundered your queen for the 10th time, you tell yourself, I think I can stop now, this is ridiculous. There's no need to do this over and over. And so in chess, you have an accumulation of painful moments. Those moments I remember very well now, even now. I remember some school competition because, come on, I was winning the tournament, I have a winning position, and then I'm trying to play fast and I lose. Yeah. So over time, there was a natural tendency to slow down a little bit. You remember some painful moment, you think, okay, this time let me do it a bit better. So normal learning. But otherwise, when I was young, I hardly felt the urge to slow down. It's only later, maybe the lessons accumulated, and then I started to slowly slow down. But a lot of people who tell me, no, you must force yourself to think harder. And in fact, Manuel Aaron, the country's first international master, he once told me, you're playing too fast. You should learn to slow down and think about your moves. But this is a different worldview. It's a worldview saying that everything can be controlled, and everything in chess is a matter of discipline. But there's another way to look at it, which is that you cannot control some things. Sometimes your emotions are more important than your very logical process. And you can make a virtue out of it and this is what my father told me. He said, he was not a chess player. My mother was a chess player. My father didn't know much about chess. But I think this was just understanding of human nature. He could see that I was too young probably to do this properly. So he said, you play what is your natural game. I mean, his feeling was that this is who I am. And he said, well, don't worry about it too much. You just stay at this pace and that will be fine. And it was good advice because I think
raw wisdom.
Changing slowly was more important than, because it's unnatural to sit and tell yourself constantly do something other than what your hand wants you to do. Excellent. Once in a while is improvement, but if you're telling yourself every 2 minutes to slow down, then you're fighting yourself. And I think my father's idea was that's not a way to do it.
You talked about discipline. Father, of course, advising you, that was the turning point. But your father also made you eat dinner at 8:30 p.m. Every night when you were young. Tell us about that phase of your life where the value systems in the home, the rules, the discipline, how did that help you in becoming a champion?
My parents expected me to do certain things, to act in certain ways. Maybe they were concerned that at a young age, if you start winning competitions, things like that can go to your head. But at the same time, they didn't want to come across very heavily. But somehow you understood that there was a certain way you were expected to behave, and that had to be respected. But my mother would have lunch or dinner ready and then call me. And then she realized if a chess book came and I had started reading it, then I would not come till I had finished reading it. So at some point she ordered everyone in the family to, if any mail comes, hide it. And only when I say so, you can give it to him, because after that we lose him for the meals. And yes, my parents would spend a lot of time with me. As I mentioned, I was the youngest, so very soon my elder brother and sister went to college.
Did they also play chess, your brother and sister?
I think they knew the rules, or maybe they were even playing without knowing the rules. It's hard to verify now, but no, they never really pursued it at that point. So nothing like what I did. But then, because of me, they started to find out something about the game, and they came to it from that side.
We actually have a lovely picture of yours with your parents. Can we show that, please? Yeah, this was what? How old were you here?
I was 16, 17, because, no, I was already 17. This is where my dad retired to. So my parents retired to, and so I can calculate that I was 17.
youngest grandmaster, 5 world championships, and in your early life, you did not have a coach. Even now, some of us are trying to find our mentors and our life coaches, and in those days, you had no coach. How did you overcome that challenge? How did you, persist through that journey to become a world champion? Because it's not easy. Yes, your parents are there to guide you, to motivate you, to support you, but then at the end of the day, it is a sport.
Yes, but the profession of coach didn't exist in India then. There was no chess coach. What there were other players. And so there were mentors. There were people you exchanged ideas with. It was mutual. You mention what you think is a good move. Somebody else will say what they think is a good move. We'll give each other practical tips. I played that guy and he was like this. You can try this against him. But there was no one who would come and have a very focused professional session and he has his material and he trains you in a certain way. That simply didn't exist. We just got used to it because we would play. Our openings were quite vulnerable, let's say, because we were not used to sharpening them like the Soviets. But at the same time, because we got into trouble so often, we were very good at getting out of trouble. Simply by necessity, as you mentioned. So that is how I became a chess player. Later on, when I qualified for the last 16 of the World Championship, then I had to get a trainer for the first time. And it was revelatory. I would sit with them daily for 6 or 7 hours. And in between, we'd have running in the morning, cycling during the day. So physical exercise, we would analyze positions for, like I said, 6 or 7 hours together, very, very methodical and systematic. And that was a new experience by then. And I benefited a lot. It's like you come very late to something, you realize, oh my God, this is fantastic, and then you grow very fast. But I was able to put that part off till very late.
We also know there was a friend who actually mentored you in terms of you had a habit of, at a certain moment in your game, you had a habit of biting your nails, and he thought that the opponents saw what was coming, and he then told you that if you stop doing that, possibly you'll be able to fox them.
No, but there were some of my friends did point out that I was biting my nails. I wish they'd been able to stop it because I still have I still haven't succeeded. Yes, very, very quickly it became clear that my nail biting was a response to anything, any impatience, a sign that I'm worried about something, but I don't know what it is. If there are any nail biters, they'll know what I'm talking about. And so the problem was diagnosed pretty quickly, but it's very, very hard to fight these habits. Also fidgeting, you can't fight it because first of all, you're doing it so often, and second, it's the most natural thing.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to realize even that you're doing it. So that is the hardest habit to break. There are many habits I've broken successfully, but nail biting still hasn't worked.
You mentioned the books that were hidden from you that came in the mail. How do you learn chess through books?
In fact, there were bulletins. So what would happen when a tournament was finished? In those days, we're talking before the internet, before you could find out about games even in newspapers. Typically, a tournament would be played, and some friend who had a contact somewhere with another friend who had a telex machine at the office might get a few games printed out, and then he would bring it to the chess club. We'd all try to be nice to him so we could look at this bulletin and everything. But also we'd be mailed chess magazines from around the world. It would take a couple of weeks to arrive. And then you take this magazine and you see a tournament which happened 3 weeks ago. And you'd be looking at the games, and that's why I would not finish, till I finished the games, I would not go down to eat and so on. But it's very hard even to explain this to today's chess players, because for them, they watch games live on their phone all the time. So this idea that we waited 3 weeks for something, for them it feels like, and we used to ride in horse to school or something, something from some bygone era.
No, absolutely. And I mean, today, technology in sport, but technology also for sport, whether it's learning or even enhancing your skill, is an integral part. I remember I used my first computer, I think in 1997.
Okay.
You got your first computer in 1987.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from?
Okay, so when I won the World Junior Championship in Manila in 87, I started to get a bit noticed. And again, a friend of a friend, this was a German person a man called Friedel, who had started a chess software company in Germany. But he was born in India. He grew up in Bombay and Lonavala and spent time in Bangalore. He had that connection. So he came to meet me. I was playing a tournament in London. He came to meet me. And he said, you need a thing, you should try my software, I'll give it to you. And so. But, I mean, that was the software, but then I had to find a computer. So then I was able to get an Atari.
Okay.
And it turned out that
And you were faster than the Atari already, so.
the computers, those guys could barely play chess.
Yeah, correct.
They were hopeless. But they got stronger fast, of course. Then I got this Atari, and I was disappointed to find that the first thing I had to do was to go and leave it in a friend's house and come back to India because of the import duty in those days.
Of course.
I was quite shocked to find out it's like 250% at that point it was. So my dad said, well, that's a bit much. Can you just leave it somewhere and come? So I would leave it in this friend's house, come back to India. And then next time I travel, I would try to travel via Amsterdam, go to this friend's house, work a little bit. And it got ridiculous. My father knew someone in the sports ministry, so I filed an application to import it duty-free because it was essential for my trade, for my chess. And in 6 months, it got approved. So then 3 months later, when I had a trip there, I could pack it and bring it back. So different times. But anyway, I did have this computer. Then I have no idea what to do with it. So I was using it as a text editor for a while. I was entering moves one by one myself. Then this German friend wrote to me and said, are you crazy? I'm running a software company here which is printing these games in the dozen and you're typing them one by one. So I will send you so he sent me all these floppy disks. Again, probably no one here probably remembers what they are. But anyway, I came and and then I got my first database and I could start working on chess, and that was very, very nice.
Yeah, we have some young students from our schools here, Reliance schools. They're from the chess team.
Right.
I hope you consider yourself extremely privileged now that you have tech. I know you are a very avid technology follower, and your interest in astronomy and mathematics and information technology is moving towards artificial intelligence. We are big believers that it's going to be transformational. But the last thing we want is to really see an avatar of Viswanathan Anand playing with an avatar of Kasparov in a digital space, and we are trying to enjoy that. But in your mind, where is artificial intelligence going, and how do you see that applied to sport like chess?
Computers crossed human levels 25 years ago.
In chess?
In chess. And I would say almost permanently within 2 years after that. So by 97, computers started to beat us consistently. By 2000, computers beat us every single game. And slowly, first it took strong computers in someone's office, then it became your laptop, then it became a weaker laptop, it went on. And now any phone you bought in the last 5 years is stronger than any human being by a lot. So, and soon it will be your fridge and your washing machine will also beat us. The hell with it. But the thing with artificial intelligence is it looks at the game of chess. In fact, the key insight they had was not the AI technique of putting a data set in and thing, because anytime you put a data set in, you are implicitly transferring some bias. But the original experiment, the original neural network was constructed in a very beautiful way. So all prior things, there was always a grandmaster involved with the programmer.
Correct.
And the programmer would talk to the grandmaster, try to understand. The grandmaster would say, oh, but the knight is worth so much and the bishop is so much. They would try to put that in some appreciable way. It's very hard to convert this knowledge into a thing. And it turns out most grandmasters have no idea how they find their moves. If you ask me, I'll generate an explanation, but because I'm stronger than you, you probably can't contradict me and we get away with it. But if you actually try to describe the steps and I'll put it into a computer, then you realize the grandmaster because it's fundamentally intuitive. So I have rough ideas, but there's no method in this. So what they did with the first AI thing was they taught it the rules of chess. So they entered the rules of chess. Obviously, that is a necessary thing. But then nothing more. They told the computer, now that you know the rules of chess, play games with yourself for the next month. So it played 44 million games with itself. And just like a human brain, every time it would play a game, the side which had won would think, I must have done something right. The side which did something wrong thought the opposite. And they learnt, self-learning, they went on like that. And this was so much stronger than all the old style computers, computer playing programs, that people realized, wait, this is something new. And a lot of the insights it gave were fundamentally new, but it was often the computer giving probability. If you ask the computer why this move is the strongest, it couldn't tell you. I mean, you couldn't even look at its tree and see why.
Yeah.
It was doing probability. It was saying, in this kind of position, this kind of move gives me 54% odds. And it was converting that into playing moves, but the result was brilliant. It's hard to describe the impact it made on us, because after 20 years of computers beating us, we kind of lost the plot. But it's like you get used to running against cars that go at 100 kilometers, and suddenly there's a car which goes at 200. From your athlete's perspective, it doesn't make a difference.
Correct.
But it's so much faster that it was mind-boggling. So these are learning techniques. And the learning techniques are what produce very, very interesting insights. So whether it's in medicine, you give your x-rays, your scans, it learns by itself and it says, okay, a black dot in this side, it correlates heavily with something there. These are random things that it finds some connection with. The key for humans is how do you convert that into some useful knowledge.
Correct.
Essentially, I think humans' roles in future will be to convert these random mathematical insights into language. Because language is very beautiful. It's something only we understand, and we are able to. So in chess, if you tell me long sequences of moves, I'm going to imprecisely. But if you tell me every time there's a rook on a low rank, a queen stay at a certain distance away, not greater than or not less than this, gives you an advantage, then it's a method I can apply consistently. So our trick is to convert these insights into something we can use, into language literally.
Absolutely. No, beautifully put. I think that is our conviction as well, because with our digital services business, of course, we have a huge data lake that we will keep building. But the real value would be how do you convert that using artificial intelligence, using mathematical models that will at the end of the day benefit humanity and the businesses associated with it. So absolutely. Do you think it has to be regulated? I think half of the world is saying artificial intelligence needs to be regulated. Half the world says no, let it go.
My preference is that it should be regulated because there are too many implications. For a start, nobody considered copyright implications.
Yeah.
But this is quite serious. I mean, we are applying copyright law everywhere else.
Yeah.
But in this one area, it's just going nuts. And second, you have to a certain amount of oversight and regulation when anything complex is happening. We will not need it till we need it, and then it can't be too late.
Correct.
The first time it goes wrong, it will go horribly wrong. And so it's better that we develop it. It takes more time, but safely than to go.
It's difficult because
right now it's an arms race, and since countries will not agree on how to do that arms race, the danger is that then it gets out of control. But so it's real.
Unlike nuclear, I think because this has to self-learn, you need to let it go for a while. And when do you stop it is the question, right? So.
Correct, but I think you have to stop it when you plug it into something else that it operates. So you learn fine as long as somebody can pull a plug. I don't mind.
We're talking about technology, and there's so much out there in the social media. You are one of the few legends who is not really putting yourself out there. You are still under the radar, and all of that I think is leading towards another trait of yours, which is a champion's trait, which is humility. You're not out there in the media now. You are not out there when you are young and you are like the poster boy of India in sport. And then there is also a lovely story of you meeting somebody in the train and he's saying that you need to be Viswanathan Anand. What is that story?
So I had just become a Grandmaster, and somebody in Kerala invited me for a felicitation function. So I went by train, and there was an elderly gentleman in the same berth as me. And in those days, everybody couldn't stare into their own phone, so we had to talk to each other. And so we made some polite talk, and then he said, "So young man, what do you do?" And I had just become a grandmaster, so it meant that I had a very realistic shot of being able to do this professionally without much risk. I mean, a grandmaster already was a very good guarantee that I would have a comfortable, I wouldn't have financial problems. I'm not going to buy a yacht. And so I was proud, and I thought, okay, I should maybe drop this bit of information in. I said, I'm a chess player. He said, okay, but what do you do? Then I realized it wasn't going exactly according to plan. I told him, no, I'm a chess player. And then he probed around the thing, father has a company, you have a job. So I said, no, I'm a chess player. And he said, okay. Then he said, young man, don't take this badly, but if I can give some advice to you, sports in our country is very unreliable. I mean, very uncertain as a career. If you were Viswanathan Anand, you could probably make a living playing chess. But and then I could not find a way to tell him, so I left it.
You did not tell him?
I did. By now he's found out, but
I hope when he watches this video, he finds out. But again, amazing that it's still the same Viswanathan Anand that was in that train, who was so humble not to tell him that you're talking to one, you're still the same. And I think that is one of the biggest hallmarks of a great champion, a great legend. You mentioned, being predictable. When do you take the risk? How do you bring in intuition at the right time? How do you not overplay intuition? How do you still stick to your routine, still stick to your training? And obviously in today's time, you have technology which is watching you. There is analysis being done, and again you use computing power to say, what does Anand do when he does this and all of that. Did you face this in your career, where people thought you were becoming predictable and they are now sort of figuring you out? And did you change in some of the matches? And tell us some stories about those matches, please.
Very much. It's quite common in chess career, probably in all careers, that you have peaks and troughs, you have slumps, quite often for no explanation. It's very comforting to think that you'll always know why things are going wrong, but those are the things you're trying to avoid actively anyway. But in spite of that, inevitably you'll have periods when you're not doing very well. And one of the obvious explanations is that at some point you're not producing enough new stuff. You've got to, and if anything is out there for too long, people will get good at it, because they'll do it once, twice, thrice till they improve and they catch up. So unless you're doing something where the risk to you is high, you're probably not doing something that other people will find dangerous. I mean, this is a paradox, but you kind of have to be there.
Interesting.
You have to take risks, which means you have to feel some sense of danger for yourself. In order for them to, it has to be unknown. And in multiple points, right after I became a grandmaster, right after I played my first world championship, then when I won my first world championship, the year after that, then some years later, more or less on regular schedule it comes. And I find that it's a good moment to stop, go over everything that I did for the last year or last 6 months, slowly, see all the little details that have accumulated that I have not fixed, just kind of house cleaning. Add at least one completely new thing to what you do. So one opening I've never played before, or one style I've never tried before, or copy some opponent that I have not done thing. Some new impulse that, and this new thing can then spread into other areas as well. All the regular openings you play, if you say, well, I'm going to try and see if I can sacrifice a pawn or play more quietly, whichever. You bring that new element, you try to put it into everything that you do. And you realize that suddenly you find the game interesting again, because it's new. It was getting routine, was getting boring, you were doing things on autopilot, and suddenly you're forced to think for yourself again. But this is a very nice feeling, because there's a rush, things can go wrong, and slowly I find that your results also pick up. Having said that, I don't think taking risks means you have to be unprepared or it has to be a leap into the unknown. Taking risks simply means that you explore new areas, but then you're allowed to train and minimize the things that can go wrong. So my best example of that was my match in 2008 against Vladimir Kramnik in Bonn. Very briefly, my main weapon with white was his strongest suit as black. So essentially, I was neutralized stylistically with the white pieces. Until that point, I had won 4 games against him with black, but only 1 with white. Whereas he had beaten me 7 times with white and never with black. And so my problem is I'm not getting enough chances with the white pieces. Then I decided I would play a different opening as my main starting point with white. And with black, I would try to sharpen the play as much as possible, try to get it into the kind of game that I want. And I knew that I had to do this even though the risk was considerable, because in every position, if you're sharpening, then you're leaving a lot of holes in the way and things can go wrong and so on. But for me, mainly the decision was mental. Once you've decided that you're going to do that, then I had a team of 4 people, I got them together, I explained my decision, I said, I'm doing this. But I also said, within 3 months, if we find that it's not going according to plan, it doesn't matter. I'm going to stick to the decision come October. So I'm talking April and we're discussing a match in October. So I said, regardless of whether it's going well or badly, I'm sticking to my decision. Which is nice for the team because they know that the work won't be wasted. So we got into this frame of mind and we started working. It was very creative and it was one of the most enjoyable training sessions we've ever had. Because everyone is having fun, we're doing something new every day, we're experimenting and so on. Now that's all fun, but the danger is you sit at the board and suddenly you don't feel your way around. I would describe it as trying to learn a new language in 1 year and saying no matter how fluent I am at this new second language, that's going to be my main language. I'm going to move to the country where they speak only that and I'll figure myself out. So there is a comfort in knowing your mother tongue, right? But there's also this other aspect. And the beauty was, because everything was unfamiliar, I was concentrating better. I didn't have this feeling that everything was going fine. In every position, I was worried about something or the other, but your brain is very alert then. And it was the best match I've ever played in my life, my most successful match in my life. Now, that's of course extreme. To get a good picture, you should not only see the risks that paid, but you should also see the risks that backfired. Having said that, for me, always the stepping stone to a new beginning or a new thing comes with taking quite some risks.
So what you're saying is risks are good as long as you back it up with enough belief through data and through practice and through rigor.
Very much. I would say risks are essential. You cannot do without them.
Yeah.
But you might as well do them properly, which is simulate endless situations where you're in this new scenario and see how you cope and then try to improve. So taking a risk doesn't mean it has to be unprepared. It can be a prepared risk as well, which is much better.
Changing moves to get out of boredom, trying the risk is good. But showing up day after day, year after year, on a chessboard, does it get monotonous and boring? Playing chess?
Very much on a regular basis. For me, if I play 3 or 4 tournaments in a row, by the end, it's a good idea to stop. And even when I was younger, when I was a chess fanatic, when I was younger, I couldn't go very long without chess. But even then, after 3 tournaments, I'd come back home and stay home for 2 months without playing. And then you go out again and you look forward to playing. Whereas if you're always just a week away from your last tournament, you can motivate yourself all you want, but your brain is switched off inside. And that's the conflict. So it's very important to have other hobbies.
What are your hobbies besides chess?
I like astronomy. I read a lot about astronomy and so on, which is also a nice hobby because when you do it, you're not thinking about chess at all. I like playing games. I like traveling, meeting friends, things like that. Anything which helps me distract. And if I'm not going to do chess for 2 weeks, then I won't do chess, but there's no guilt. You leave all the chess in one room, you lock that room, and then you enjoy yourself for a while.
Is there an adventurer streak in you, given the serious sport that you play?
First of all, there is an adventurous streak of me as a chess player also. So even on the chessboard, I will do... I will do things that I'm not supposed to do simply because I'm curious and things like that. That's quite normal. But I like doing some dangerous things on holiday and so.
Like?
So I like water scooters and things like that. Especially in the sea, you take one of these things and you drive around. Probably anyone who's tried it knows what I'm talking about. It's a lot of fun. I go to adventure parks and do all these nightmarish rides and things like that. Couple of times I've gone in a plane, well, more of a contraption than a plane really. It looks like somebody assembled a kit and then you go up and you look down.
That itself is an
And
adventure.
you're strapped to you, the guy from the pilot, and he's strapped to you, and you think, okay, wait. That's not very reassuring, but somehow you land again. So I get a kick out of these things, and I like, I mean, otherwise, what's the point of going on holiday also? So it's one of the nicer things.
Yeah, well, we were supposed to meet here on 28th March 2020, and COVID hit,
You're right.
and the entire world was in lockdown. You got stuck in Germany in a hotel room for more than 2 months, is that right?
Yes, with one caveat. It wasn't a hotel room, it was actually my flat. I was very lucky in that sense because imagine if I'd been stuck in a hotel room, I would have gone mental. But I was, one of my best friends was in the opposite flat, and so I had all the company I wanted and things like that. But
And your family was here.
my family was here. And then every 2 weeks I would check the travel alert, and literally I was 10th March I arrived in Germany from Poland. So I flew Warsaw to Frankfurt, came to my flat. 12th I was supposed to go to play for my team, finished that match, and then on the 17th I was supposed to catch a flight back to India.
Correct.
11th, my team captain wrote to me saying, a lot of the players are having difficulty coming. Do you have any friends who might be able to come? But before I could contact the friends, my team captain told me, actually, all flights are being cancelled, or don't bother. Then I said, so the weekend is happening? He said, no, it's off. And then next thing I knew, my airline had cancelled the return. So then the airline said, but within a week we'll be flying again. They were also not sure. And by the 19th or 20th of March, we found out the Indian government had closed everything by 31st March.
Correct.
And after that, I'm spending all my time checking when
So what helped
when
you?
the flights would open again.
So how did you tide through these 2 months? I mean, is this the mental conditioning, the strength that you must have built, the stamina that you must have built while playing chess?
It's probably giving me too much credit. If I was in a hotel, as you mentioned, then I would have needed all these qualities. But I was at home, friends were nearby, I was one of the lucky ones. But having said that, by mid-April, you're wondering when is this going to end? Because you're also stuck. And it's the first time in my life I could remember a time when I could not just go to the airport and catch a flight. So it was bizarre. And then slowly, life there became difficult. All the supermarkets, you had to stand outside in a queue and only one person left, you would enter. Life slowly became thing, but mostly it was very pleasant and I couldn't complain. But I mean, it's already 2 months without seeing my wife and son.
Yeah.
And it got crazy. But imagine how much harder it would have been 10 years earlier when video communication was not as good, bandwidth was not so good, and so on. Then it would have been much, much harder even.
Absolutely.
Of course, the news was also frightening because the death rate was climbing and everything. It was a scary time. Then one flight appeared, and so 1 month before, everybody started applying at the Indian embassy in some web page, and then they approved it, and I knew that I was going to fly on the 30th.
And you still did not tell them you're Viswanathan Anand.
No. I told them, and this was a bad moment not to do it. So in fact, the Indian embassy was getting phone calls from the sports ministry and all, so I was being helped a lot to get back home. Sure. And so I arrived 30th in Bangalore. I had to quarantine for 1 week there. Every day we had to go down somewhere,
Correct.
get tested, go back up, all that blah blah. Then I flew to Chennai. Then 1 week I stayed in one room locked up on my own in Chennai. Then only at the end of that I could see my family again.
So mental stamina must have helped you, but do chess players also work on the physical aspect of the human body to be a champion?
Yes, physical fitness is very important. I would say this, that though I was stuck there, I tried to keep my brain active with good habits. I tried to learn some new things. And my physical fitness was never better than those 3 months. Because every day I was going running, 5 kilometers every day, because I had nothing else to do.
Sure.
And then going for long walks as well. And I was probably the fittest I've been in a long time in those 3 months. But generally, if you're feeling even the slightest bit depressed or sad, First of all, going for a walk is one of the best, easiest cures I know. Second, any physical exercise. So there is some connection, yeah, I mean, you can call it endorphins or whatever, but it does improve your mood. And you'll never get through a chess game of 7 hours if you're not in good shape. Somewhere you'll make one move that you're ashamed of, and it's because you got tired. Your brain flagged for a second and the other thing. Or you will not recollect something. Again, it weakens your memory, weakens your decision making, everything, and you get a bit crankier. So, and even if it doesn't happen in one game, you repeat that game 9 days in a row, it's going to happen somewhere. So a lot of importance is given to chess fitness nowadays, which wasn't the case 40 years ago, because then it was a different kind of chess.
Yeah.
So then there were guys who would go out for wine every evening and so on, but now none of that. Everyone is going to the gym in the evening and working out and this sort of thing.
Excellent. What is your prep in chess before a big match? You know, in boxing, you have this, pre-match stare off, the two boxers come, they look at each other, they say not so kind words to each other, and then next day they play the match. In chess, what is equivalent to that? And more importantly, then how does a champion like you stay in the zone? Because there must have been so many incidents in your life where things did not go the way you expected them to go, and then you still had to perform and you still had to win. So take us through your prep. How do you go through such situations?
We don't have the boxing ritual.
Great.
Then causes problems when they try to introduce it. So in a couple of places they tried to introduce it, and so the players are standing there looking blankly because we've been, we're trained to do that all our lives. And then the organizer comes in, can you say something nasty about your opponent? Such as, I don't know. It's very funny. But we do stare at each other, and then you come and if it's a hard handshake, you try to project confidence, especially if your opponent's looking. You want to look as confident as you want. So all these things are leading up. But typically you've seen your opponent at dinner somewhere the previous night, you've seen him in the opening ceremony, and your tension is going up because each thing is like a ritual. Each thing makes you more tense and you realize the real game is going to start. By this I mean that a game where every move has consequences, as opposed to sitting at home and every move doesn't. So the tension is climbing and all that. Besides that, people can insult each other in interviews, they can say,
interviews before the match.
Before the
in terms
match.
of a press conference types.
Press conference, what have you. Once I was at a place with Karpov where he had, at least in my opinion and many others, gotten a lot of unfair advantages. And at the closing press conference, he was the one complaining about how unfair it was to him. I said, how can he get away with this? But then I realized for him, it's part of his mental makeup as a champion to always feel that he's fighting the odds. It's his mental state. And then you respect that because it produces some great results. But I remember being very angry with him in that thing. Then my first reaction was I wanted to go and lash out. But that's not easy because you're also fighting yourself. And over the years, I've realized that I don't like lashing out. So I avoid it as much as possible. But sometimes revenge is very sweet when it takes
There was no tiger moment.
When it's again, I feel the best tiger moments are actually when you stick your jaws on the neck, not really announcing it in advance. So put it that way. So I've focused on that, which is to find this the ambience, the state which best suits me, and I try generally to be pragmatic. Another example, in 2010, the team was going to assemble in Frankfurt, and we were going to fly to Sofia in Bulgaria to start a World Championship match. I was going to fly on the 15th of April. Mm-hmm. On the 14th of April, this Icelandic volcano erupted.
Oh, yes.
So me and Surya, my Indian trainer, were already in Frankfurt because we arrived one day early to the thing. But a lot of the other guys hadn't come. One trainer who was going to come from Copenhagen by flight, he took the train from Copenhagen all the way to Hamburg. It's like 8 or 9 hours by train.
You could not fly. There was a no-fly zone.
Well, imagine this Icelandic volcano. Correct. The ash cloud is expanding.
Correct.
And so first the Nordic countries were closing their airports.
So many flights got affected.
Then northern airports got closed. Then southern airports got closed. And like this, and by the next day, already the whole of European airspace was shut.
This was one day before your big match.
One day before my flight. So what happened was we were supposed to arrive on the 15th April. And in a very relaxed frame, we were going to take the next 6 days to do all our warm-up sessions and everything and feel ready to play the match. then initially on the 15th of April, we were still in kind of denial. Luckily, one friend who worked in Lufthansa said, go to the airport and get your luggage out quickly before they switch into their brain dead status, which is, once they have decided to shut the airport, then you know what they'll do, none of them will think.
Yeah.
They say, can I take my luggage out? I don't know the rules, I think that we can't send it. And then you won't be able to get anything back.
Yeah.
So he told me, before they get into that state, go there, collect your luggage. So we went to the airport, quickly got our luggage, which was good because we at least had our luggage with us. Then 2 days we waited to see if airspace would clear, and it wasn't clearing. We hired a van. We managed to find one van, because everyone was hiring vans, right?
Yeah.
So we hired one van to travel by car to Sofia, which was a 40-hour bus ride for us, a van ride. We did that. Again, we sat in the van for first few hours, we were very sincere, no, we're going to study and blah, blah. And after 3 hours, we understood the van is shaking, laptops are shaking, nothing, no study is happening. So we said, okay, forget it. Close the laptops. We had a TV screen. So we started watching Dr. House, and then we arrived, spent the whole day traveling from Frankfurt. We arrived in Budapest, spent the night there.
Wow.
Next day, we started traveling. Then luckily one of the players had the extended version of Lord of the Rings. So we put that, three movie set, and then we watched that all day. And we're traveling endlessly. We arrived at 4 a.m. the next morning. So we started on noon, 2 nights, 4 a.m. the next morning. We arrived in Sofia. And when we arrived in Sofia, we realized there was 7 minutes of the movie left. So we told the man, can you just keep going around the hotel? We might as well finish this stupid movie and then go in. 4:30, what difference is it? We were going around the hotel watching the last 7 minutes, and then we...
Did you win the match?
Yes, I won the match. But the more relevant thing was, so my entire plan for peaking was gone. I originally had 7 days to peak, now I had 2 days to peak. And my wife was able to negotiate with the World Chess Federation. They were not accepting her demand, but then she served them a legal notice, force majeure, and then they agreed to move it by a day, so that gave us a little cushion. And so nothing is going according to plan. You want to arrive in peace and quiet, you've prepared everything, and you're there, and you have no time to... it's like wanting to go to a very bad example, wanting to go to an airport 2 hours early, be relaxed, and suddenly you're arguing with the security guard, please let me in, boarding is closing, that. It felt like that. So, but then I had to get a grip on myself. We are here, this is the situation, there's nothing to be done. And so I tried to switch my frame of mind, as opposed to I am ready to play anything. What can go wrong? Go there, play. If a lifetime of studying chess didn't matter, then this week won't matter. So, you try to convince yourself that it's okay to go on. And match started badly. I lost the first game, horribly. Then I got very lucky in the second game. And only after that we were able to settle down into the match, and then slowly. So it was a match full of unpleasant surprises. But at the same time, if you're in the right frame of mind and you relax, you're able to cope better.
Your wife Aruna not only helped you in that situation, but she has played a pivotal role in your chess life, right? She calls herself chess spouse. I've heard about soccer moms and I never knew what a chess spouse is. But clearly, unlike many other sports, there is a role for a chess spouse, much more than just supporting. Can you just tell us about your journey with her and how she has helped you become the champion and the legend that you are?
So the one stereotype about chess players that is true is, of course, that they're lost in their sport. They're only thinking about what move to make in the next game or some idea thing, but they have very little grasp of the practical details of life, so to speak. And so a lot of chess players will have very strong family members supporting them. Typically parents, can be friends, can be coaches, and in a few cases a spouse as well. In the vast majority, let's just say wife. When we were engaged, she didn't know anything about chess. Her brother knew a little bit, and he tried to teach her, and she gave up very quickly.
And now?
Now, she's probably she can probably be a chess coach herself.
Wow.
Simply by observation, right? From your mood itself, she can tell you that things are going to go well or they're not going to go so well today, and they're almost a kind of AI by herself. So then we quickly got into an arrangement where we would travel everywhere together and to all tournaments. And again, first tournaments, she said, I really like the chess tournaments because the hall is dark and I can just go to sleep. But eventually she got the hang of it. She got more familiar with the chess world, with chess players. And then we came to this arrangement. She said, look, why don't I be your manager? I can take care of everything around it. It wasn't as easy as I make it sound. As usual, if you're used to doing something, then you don't like giving it up slowly and giving it up fully. But slowly I could see that this arrangement worked quite well. And since then, she's been a big support. She more or less deals with all my affairs around chess so that I'm able to only think about chess.
Excellent.
And this is quite a luxury, the ability to just drop into a bubble by yourself. And initially I was surprised because there are many things she can do, but she never had any legal training, for instance. But she started handling my contracts, negotiations, and doing a spectacular job. So,
Absolutely.
big support. It's very hard for me to describe a family member or a wife as a manager or something like that. But in effect, she took over a lot of the functions, and
Absolutely.
this was fantastic. She also took over a psychologist, other things, because she again spent so much time. She has that insight.
Yeah, she as a psychologist, I think let's watch her tell us a story.
Chess players have a very tough life, and as a spouse of a chess player, you get to see it up front. So I don't know how it is for people who work in offices. I mean, you don't really take your spouse to work and your spouse doesn't watch you work. But unfortunately, I mean, some of us chess spouses get taken along to chess tournaments. I mean, when everything goes well, they are amazing people to be with because, you know, they are so happy and they're just enjoying that they're playing such great chess, the preparation is going well, and I mean, life cannot be better then. But unfortunately, in chess, you do lose games, and those days, I can tell you, I think the moment Anand loses the game, his first words will always be, very sorry. And, you know, mentally I will think, you know, of course you have to be very sorry because I know that, you know, tonight I'm not going to get food, I'm not going to be able to sleep, and I have to listen to that one move that he missed, I mean, endlessly. Like, even now, many games that Anand lost, I can remember the position which he lost, the move that he should have played, because I mean, as a chess spouse, I have, you know, digested it so much. So this particular tournament happened in Dortmund in 2003. And Anand was, you know, the tournament started well, and then he seems, you know, he had one or two losses. And he was in a really bad mood. And the thing is, when Anand is in a really bad mood, he starts to walk. And I'm not really someone who's very much into physical exercise. I mean, for me, yoga is like is the maximum of my physical exercise. And he can walk for like 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers. So here we were in this place in Germany, and he started walking. Over there, you walk 5 kilometers, you come to the next town. I mean, you just keep walking, then you just keep going. So we kept walking and walking, and I mean, after some time, I was walking behind him because I couldn't keep up, obviously. He turned around and he said, you know, I lost 2 games, don't you have anything to tell me? So I thought, okay, this is my cue when I have to be the perfect wife, because till then I was keeping quiet, I had not opened my mouth at all. So I looked at him and I smiled as sweetly as I can, and I said, you know, life is all about ups and downs, you know, today you lose, tomorrow you win. I mean, you have to take through this, sometimes you have to just breathe, and you know, there's so much more to life than just chess. And here I expected, you know, absolutely, you know, tears of joy that, you know, this great moment had been experienced. But Anand, you know, in his usual way, with his hands in his pockets, he suddenly turned to me and said, all this I know how to do. I can do yoga, I know levitation. Do you have anything against the Berlin for me? And he was about to cross the road. I mean, this is, you know, the German Autobahn. You just don't cross wherever you feel like. And at this moment, I was really angry. I mean, first of all, I had kept quiet for like 1.5 hours. I had not opened my mouth. I had walked 6 kilometers. I didn't know whether I was going to get food that night. And now I was losing it. So I got really angry and I just crossed the road. I mean, this is the Autobahn. So I just ran and I said, you know, if I knew so much of the Berlin, do you think I would have married you? By now, I would have been a chess player. Unfortunately, since that didn't happen, I have to cross a road and be married to you. And I just crossed the road and I kept walking. So then Anand realized that I had crossed the road. And so he ran after me, and then after crossing, he said, yeah, you're actually right. And then both of us bursted out laughing. I think sometimes when life is just not going the way you think, it is nice to take that one moment and actually kind of realize that, I mean, life is much more than that one moment. After that, the tournament did go much better. In fact, Anand played a game there against Bologan, which that year was judged as one of the best games of the year. So sometimes, you know, certain small moments make a lot of difference.
Do you still go for walks with her after that?
Sometimes yes, but she's also learnt when to tell me, why don't you go by yourself? And I mean, this was enough for me. I'll go back to the hotel, or I have to take a call. Why don't you go on? And so we understand each other.
And with all the help that she's given you in your chess life and in your personal life, I believe you forgot your wedding anniversary date. She tells us a story. Let's watch the video.
So basically, I mean, when I got married, everybody kept telling me that you're marrying a chess player, he should have an excellent memory. So kind of I had based my marriage on that. So in 1997, Anand was playing this very important tournament in Switzerland and Holland. And in those days, you know, your data was always backed up on a floppy disk. We didn't have the cloud, and you didn't upload your data anywhere, but you had to keep it physically. So every night I would collect the floppy disk from all the trainers, and I would put it in a safe and physically lock it. So I did that, and I told Anand, you know, I've changed the code of the safe. Now it's very easy to remember. It's 2706. For this, he suddenly looked at me and he was very quizzical, and then he asked me, what kind of a password is this? Because, you know, ratings cannot be 2706. It's either 2705 or 2710. You know, they don't have ratings 2706. I mean, we were just completed 1 year of marriage then. So I looked at him and I said, you know, by the way, that is our wedding anniversary, 2706. And he kept looking at me for some time, and then he said, 2706, as in 27 June. Now I get it. So I mean, after that day, most of our passwords are, you know, became 2706, because it was not that he remembered the wedding anniversary, he remembered that you should never forget your wedding anniversary, which is much more important. So that is how 2706 became a legend in our lives.
That is the time when she became not only your manager but your psychologist as well.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, if she just throws a number at you, are you supposed to even connect it with the month and a day?
She also tells us, by the way, that you have a great memory with moving objects, but when it comes to stationery, it's not so great. So should we quickly play a rapid fire game? Should we do that with him? Yeah. Name of your math teacher in school.
Ludaraj.
You stayed in Manila for many years. Your home address in Manila.
It was the Tropicana apartments.
When you met Aruna ji for the first time, what was she wearing?
White salwar.
We know the answers.
White salwar.
White salwar. What were you wearing?
I was wearing one of my favorite shirts. I think it was blue with some red patterns in it and something like that. I wore it for many years afterwards.
Last question, your wedding anniversary date.
27 June.
Excellent. Aruna ji also tells us that you're also absent-minded at times, right? And that goes beyond the memory part. Let's hear the story from her itself.
Can I tell?
She calls you Lord of the Rings, so let's see why she calls you that.
So Anand's mother, she has seen Anand from the time he was a champion in the local chess club to all the way playing for the world title. And she would, before every big match, you know, she would, you know, take on these spiritual endeavors, and, you know, she would go to the temples or she would pray, and she would realize that Anand needed that power wherever he is, so she would get a special ring made for him. And he's had many rings like this, so she would get these rings made from a jeweler according to what was needed, and it would be given to Anand with, you know, so much of love and so much of earnest hope So this Anand would wear it and we would go. And I remember that there were 4 or 5 rings like this, and it all happened between like 3 or 4 years of our marriage. So the first ring was a beautiful one, and it was really funny. I mean, Anand was trying to be world champion for many years, and we had gone to this tournament, I think it was in Corsica somewhere, and he had gone to the washroom in the airport. And when he got on the plane, I said, something is missing on your hand. Then he realized it was the ring, and this ring he had it for I think what 8-9 years already, and he felt really bad because not losing the ring, but how are you going to tell your mother you lost the ring? So we never told his mother, and it was that year that Anand actually became world champion for the first time. Mentally I thought this ring going maybe was the sign that he was going to become world champion. And then next year another ring was made for him, which was even more fancier. And again, we went to some restaurant, he washes his hands, he leaves it there and he comes. But his mother wouldn't give up. So there was a third ring that came along, which was even more, each ring was getting much bigger and more fancier. And Anand would always say, Amma, I don't want the ring, it's okay. Some washroom in some restaurant in some country is getting all these rings, let me not wear it. And she would say, you should never question, all these things, I'm going to get it for you. And then the third ring was also lost in a washroom. By this time it was, statistically it was getting, almost futile. So then at some point Anand's father told Anand's mother, maybe we should just leave this ring thing, because every 5 or 6 months we are taking him to the jeweler, and the jeweler first thing he asks, how's the ring? And then we can't tell him, we lost it in a washroom in some place. So at the 4th ring we actually stopped. And so I used to tell Anand, why bother getting you the ring with so many rings that you have amassed and lost, you should be called the Lord of the Ring. So that's how we started calling him in his house.
Some janitors out there really got rich out of your absent-mindedness.
No, but I remember telling my mother, this is really pointless. Why don't you just donate it somewhere by yourself instead of forcing me to do it more randomly?
Are you superstitious, Anand?
Pretty. I think even people who are not superstitious are superstitious before a game. There's something about that, maybe it's the tension, but you start trying to attach some unnatural cause to it, and then you get superstitious. So even people who are otherwise totally indifferent, they become superstitious about something. So they get very irritated if you do something they don't want you to do.
Is it just the routine that has worked and you want to stick to the routine?
I think yes. Once something works, people tend to stick very strongly to that, and especially in sports. Before the game, you want to repeat only what went well. Over years, I've gotten less superstitious, simply because I thought I've lost so many games, it can't be that. But yes, I was very superstitious. Now less so, but not zero, not at all zero.
So Anand, you've achieved probably all that needs to be achieved in the chess world. You're a legend, 5 times world champion, Padma Vibhushan. I hope our nation honors you with a Bharat Ratna very soon. Right, guys? Doesn't it deserve one? So, with all these achievements at such a young age, what is your next big move?
I think I've gotten to a stage where I can enjoy things a bit more. So it's meant taking the foot off the pedal a little bit. I play a little bit less chess now. I play 1 season a year instead of 3 or 4. So I tend to play in May, June, July is my most active period, then 1 tournament in October, and then I am done for the year. So I have more free time. And I try to do a lot of things that are fun. Join the World Chess Federation, which is very nice to see the world of chess from another angle. I've started an academy. So with Westbridge, where we are helping our most promising youngsters.
Is this in Chennai?
It's a virtual academy because the students are scattered around India and the trainers are scattered around the world. So it didn't make sense to have a thing. It's a virtual academy. A lot of the classes happen online. And for instance, our most successful student is Gukesh, who's now in the top 10 himself of the world. Pragnananda is very closely behind, so these are 2 very big prodigies, but we have a few more. I have also done a few things around charity, so I'm working with Vidyasagar.
Sure.
These are children with cerebral palsy. I was doing something with blind players, because Blind players are the only handicap where you can actually play chess without losing anything. So they are able to play a chess game as long as and if they can play it blind, which is they don't even have to make the pieces. If they can just keep the position and tell you the moves and you have executed for them.
Wow.
There's no difference between that and what. And they do enjoy chess a lot because one activity they can really. So with cerebral palsy and I like animals, so I do some work with WWF. Because I've always liked animals, especially tigers.
Tigers and snakes.
Before I was accused of being one, but
And you also write. I mean,
yes.
here is his book. If you want to know more about the legend, it's called Mind Master. Fascinating stories of a true champion who's made India proud. So if you haven't read it, please read this. Any more books coming?
We had the first edition to coincide with my 50th birthday.
Okay.
And then a second edition 2 years later after the pandemic. We thought there are a couple of more instances we can add. Who knows? Maybe at some point. But the 50th, my 50th birthday was a good excuse to get started because the idea had been knocking around for a while. But we really picked up steam between March and December to get the book done.
Any biopic in the making?
There is an effort, but...
we need one because somebody has to tell the story beyond the book. The story of a great, humble Indian champion who made us believe in tough days that India can win, Indians can win, we can make the impossible possible. A biopic has to be there, right?
Thank you. I hope it will come out soon. So.
Anand, Jio LEAP was our chairman's vision to democratize inspiration. It was to unearth the spirit of inspiration through iconic achievers like you. This has been a great session. It has been nothing less than that. It was inspiration, inspiration, inspiration. Thank you very much.